Tonight, I planned to unwind at a play, but my mother-in-law had other ideas. She arrived unexpectedly with 9 friends in tow, assuming they could all stay at my house while I was out. Despite my previous plans, she insisted they leave their belongings at my place and asked if I could prepare dinner and sleeping arrangements for them as if my night was theirs to plan. Caught off guard by her audacity and the necklace she wore, an item I cherished, my frustration boiled over. I couldn't take it anymore. "I'm actually about to leave for a trip," I informed her, a statement that took her by surprise. It was the breaking point after enduring her relentless demands. "Please return that necklace," I finally asserted, demanding the respect and boundaries long overdue. My name is Julie, a 32-year-old who transitioned from an administrative role to teaching computer classes after marriage. My husband, Eric, runs his father's company and often appears preoccupied with its challenges. Our moments of respite, like our cherished movie dates, bring him visible relief, a sight that warms my heart. Although I've always been more of a listener than a speaker, with Eric's encouragement, I'm learning to voice my thoughts more confidently. My older brother has always been protective, and while I once found that stifling, I now see it as a form of support, much like what Eric provides. Eric's brother, who serves as vice president of their father's company, and his wife, Catherine, who is about my age, are also a part of our intertwined lives. Catherine, Eric's sister-in-law, has always been a person I admire. She's ambitious, dependable, and kind-hearted. What truly stands out is her assertiveness and the way she confidently expresses her views. She also possesses a remarkable ability to be understanding and adaptable. Witnessing her stand up to our mother-in-law was nothing short of impressive. Unfortunately, Catherine and her husband live quite far away, which means we don't see each other as often as I'd like, something I often find myself regretting. On the flip side, our mother-in-law carries herself as if she owns the company, being the president's wife. She's always brimming with confidence, but her stubbornness and arrogance are unmistakable. She often pressures me, insisting, "Julie, you're Eric's wife, the president. You should quit your job as a computer instructor and fully support your husband." While Eric stands by my choices, her dissatisfaction is palpable, and I'm thankful we don't live too close to her. I've always hoped for a simple, peaceful life with Eric, perhaps with children in the future. However, everything took a sudden turn when Eric's father passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. It was a shock to us all, and it left Eric and his brother to figure out the next steps for the family business. During this turbulent time, Eric decided to relocate to Philadelphia to work at the company's main office, and his brother stepped up as the new president, with Eric as vice president. We found a cozy house in Philadelphia, slightly removed from the hustle and bustle and a bit far from the nearest train station, but in a peaceful, safe area, bathed in sunlight. It promised a comfortable life. With all the changes at work, Eric often returned home late, so I took it upon myself to ensure our home was a warm, welcoming place. I prepared healthy meals to support him through these trying times. As the weeks rolled into a month, Eric's appreciation for my efforts was evident. "I'm back. I'm starving," he'd announce, and I'd respond with a smile, "Thanks for working so hard. I'll make dinner." One day he mentioned, "Hey, Julie, my mom wants to visit this weekend. Is that okay?" Considering she might be feeling lonely since the passing of Eric's father, I was more than willing to welcome her. "Of course," I replied, although aware that we still had some tidying up to do. "She's welcome," I assured Eric, and he quickly said he'd let his mom know. He then suggested inviting his brother and Catherine too, to which I happily agreed. It might sound odd, but relocating here meant I could see Catherine more often, which turned out to be a delightful surprise. That weekend, we gathered to catch up and reminisce about my father-in-law. It was bittersweet. Sadly, Dad's gone, but I didn't want to stay sad forever. my mother-in-law shared, revealing a new hobby she'd picked up. She looked effortlessly elegant as usual, today accented by a stylish light purple scarf. And although she seemed a bit thinner, her presence remained commanding, especially when advising Eric and his brother on business matters. Since the passing of my father-in-law, I noticed she became more exacting with me. "Julie, we're running out of drinks. Could you go buy some?" She directed towards me, but then Catherine offered to go. "Oh, could you? That would be helpful," she responded to Catherine, her tone noticeably softer than how she spoke to me. I suspected she was perhaps struggling with her grief, so I chose to overlook her sharp comments for the time being. After dinner, Eric kindly drove everyone home, marking the end of the night. However, this was just the beginning of more frequent visits from my mother-in-law, who soon began critiquing how I maintained the house, voiced complaints about Catherine, and even started rummaging through our fridge uninvited. "Julie, Eric is so busy right now. You should watch the meals you prepare for him. What if he gets sick too?" she cautioned me one day, followed by a remark about some leftover trash. "Can't you clean up properly?" Her criticisms seemed endless, a way to pass the time, but they were always directed at me, never at Catherine, who she'd quickly dismiss, claiming other engagements. It wasn't that she disliked me, but perhaps she found it easier to boss around someone who seldom argued back, unlike Catherine, who always stood her ground. This environment made me consider getting a job, just to spend less time at home. Despite securing a job, the situation at home with my mother-in-law only intensified. "Julie, we're out of teriyaki sauce, so pick some up while you're out," she'd command, even as she brought leftovers to take back with her. Her entitlement often left me speechless, especially knowing she could easily afford such things herself. Then, one day, a deeply cherished necklace, a keepsake from my mother, vanished from where I always kept it safe. My immediate suspicion fell on my mother-in-law, who was frequently at our house and seemed too familiar with where things were kept. After a fruitless search, I reluctantly confronted her, only to be met with fierce anger. "You probably lost it yourself. How dare you accuse me? What kind of person are you?" she shouted. I tried to explain. "It's a special keepsake from my mother, and it means a lot to me," but her response only deepened the wound. "I don't care. It's just a necklace. Why don't you just ask Eric to buy you a new one?" Realizing she couldn't grasp the sentimental value of the necklace, I decided to drop the subject. But then, more things began to disappear, money from my wallet and items around the house. Even as I kept a wary eye on her, I never caught her in the act. Exhausted and confused, I confided in Catherine, who agreed that my mother-in-law was the likely culprit, given no one else had such access to our home. It saddened me to think it, but without concrete evidence, I was at a loss. Catherine saw how troubled I was and suggested a getaway. "You need a break, Julie. Why not join me on a short vacation?" she proposed. The idea of stepping away from it all was appealing. I felt drained, and the thought of a little escape was rejuvenating. So, 3 weeks later, as Eric and his brother prepared for a business trip to meet with a company in another state, Catherine and I planned our departure. "I'm heading out, Julie. Just relax and enjoy your time," Catherine encouraged as we got ready. "Take care," I replied, grateful for the chance to recharge and hopeful that a little distance might offer some perspective on the chaotic happenings at home. I packed early, eager for the respite that awaited. I had my travel bag ready by the door, eager for the upcoming trip with Catherine. Just as I was about to leave, the doorbell rang. Curious, I checked the video feed and saw my mother-in-law at the door, not alone but with a group of friends in tow. "Hi, Julie, I brought some friends. Can you let us in?" She greeted me as if it were a normal visit. Opening the door, I found her and about 9 friends, all laden with heavy bags. Were they planning to stay over? "We're staying over tonight. Make us feel comfortable," she announced as if it was a done deal. "Didn't I mention it? We're going to see a play nearby tonight, and since it ends late, we decided to stay here," she added casually. This was completely unexpected, especially since I was about to leave for my plans. "Oh, did I inconvenience you? Kayla told me you were okay with it," she said, trying to justify her imposition. I was taken aback by her audacity. "I'm sorry, but I wasn't informed about this and I already have plans," I replied, trying to maintain my composure. She seemed surprised but quickly retorted, "But you'll be back soon, right? We'll just drop our bags and go out for a while. Can you make dinner and set up beds for us?" Ignoring my stated plans, she acted as if everything was already settled. "I can't. I'm going on a trip with Catherine. Oh, just for Catherine, you can go any time. We've come all this way just for today. How long are you going to make us wait?" she persisted, completely disregarding my needs. Then something caught my eye, a glint of metal around her neck. It was the necklace, a cherished memento from my mother. "Wait, that necklace you're wearing," I started, my voice trailing off in shock. To my astonishment, it was indeed the same necklace. "Kayla, where did you get that necklace?" I asked, trying to keep my composure. "Why, it's just one of my collections. Is there a problem?" she replied smugly, clearly enjoying the control she felt she had. "That can't be right. That necklace is rare and a limited edition," I countered, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. Just then, Catherine arrived, puzzled as to why I hadn't met her as planned. "I was wondering why you didn't show up at our meeting place and didn't contact me. So this is what was happening," she said upon entering. "I'm sorry I couldn't get in touch," I replied, the stress evident in my voice. Noticing my distress, Catherine quickly tuned into the tension. "What's going on?" she asked, her eyes darting between me and the necklace. I was upset and blurted out, "The necklace she's wearing is the same one that belonged to my mother, which recently went missing. The one I kept in that special box," I explained, barely holding back tears. Catherine, realizing the gravity of the situation, spoke up loudly enough for everyone to hear, reinforcing the significance of the necklace and its sudden mysterious appearance around my mother-in-law's neck. In a hushed voice, desperate to keep the matter from her friends, my mother-in-law whispered, "Can you two stop this? It's embarrassing. Do you want to accuse me of theft?" Her face flushed with indignation. "Yes, I find it suspicious," Catherine replied with conviction, not backing down. "Do you have any proof that I stole it? It's embarrassing to have such unreasonable daughters-in-law." "Please don't make a scene in front of my friends," she countered before turning back to her group with a forced smile. "Well, let's go inside, everyone." As she attempted to usher her friends inside, a crucial detail flashed in my mind. "Kayla, can I have a look at the necklace, please?" I asked, needing to confirm my suspicion. Catherine circled behind her to get a closer look. "Enough of this. What's your mother's name?" she snapped, trying to dismiss us. "It's Amanda. There it was. I spotted the engraving." "The initials A are right here," I pointed out. Her friends, upon seeing the engraving, looked horrified and began to distance themselves. "Stop this! I didn't come here for this. Let's go, everyone," my mother-in-law urged, her tone frantic. "We're not letting you leave," Catherine declared, her voice firm, blocking her path. The friends, sensing the growing tension, muttered, "We're not involved," and quickly made their way toward the subway. "There's been some mistake," my mother-in-law stammered, attempting to follow her friends, but she was stopped by an unexpected presence. "What are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to be on a business trip?" Eric stood there. His arrival was unexpected. It turned out that his supposed business trip was scheduled for the next day. He had given his mother a false date to see how she would act, a plan devised after Catherine informed him of the missing items from our home. Visiting his childhood home and finding similar items missing, Eric had begun to suspect theft, but without concrete evidence, he knew any accusation could easily be denied. "What are you doing here?" Eric demanded. "I was just leaving," she replied, attempting to escape the situation. "Give it back. That necklace isn't yours. It's a keepsake from my parents." "Why do you have it, Ma?" I demanded. "It's not what you think. I found it in my purse. Julie must have set me up," she claimed, trying to shift the blame to me, panic evident in her voice. Do you think such a lie would work? There's no way Julie would do something like that. First, give the necklace back to Julie. We'll talk after that, Eric insisted. Reluctantly, she removed the necklace, threw it on the ground, and tried to flee. Hey, wait! We called out, starting to chase her, but stopping shortly after. We didn't need to chase her. The truth had already caught up to her. I was bewildered as around 15 police officers stood before my mother-in-law. The scene was surreal, and I couldn't grasp what was unfolding. Then one officer explained, "We received a report from a local resident. They said someone was causing a disturbance here and was often seen entering this house when the owners were away. They asked us to come quickly." "What are you talking about? I'm the mother of the son living here," my mother-in-law retorted, clearly annoyed. "Wait, what do you mean she entered when we weren't home?" I questioned, my curiosity piqued. "I never did such a thing," I interjected, trying to clarify that her visits were always during our presence. The police then shared more. "The informant saw her sneaking into your backyard, likely using a spare key to get inside. Indeed, we had a hidden spare key under a plant pot in the backyard." This revelation sent a chill down my spine and suddenly made sense of the missing items. Eric had suspected something and planned to observe her actions today, but this turn of events was beyond his expectations. "Mom, why were you coming into our house when we weren't home?" Eric demanded an answer. "It's all lies. Are you going to believe some unknown person's story over me?" She shot back. "But you did have my precious necklace, didn't you?" I pressed her further. "I told you I found it in my purse." My mother-in-law maintained her story. One officer intervened. "Let's talk about this at the station." "But I didn't do anything. Eric, say something," she pleaded. "Mom, stop this. I can't understand why you did this," Eric said, his tone firm. Hearing her son's words, my mother-in-law seemed momentarily defeated and collapsed to the ground. However, just when it appeared she had given up, she burst into a rage. "After your father passed away, I felt so lonely. Seeing her always so cheerful, I couldn't stand it. I wanted her to feel the pain I felt," she confessed, her emotions raw and turbulent. Eric was visibly shaken by her irrational justification. Feeling the need to address the situation directly, I stepped in front of an increasingly upset Eric. "Kayla, I understand where you're coming from. Perhaps I've been too dismissive of our interactions. However, stealing and causing distress is an entirely different matter. Did you want to upset me? Is that what you were aiming for?" "Don't be ridiculous," she snapped back. "Did finding joy in pushing someone to their limits with such twisted actions fill the void of your loneliness?" I asked, trying to understand the depth of her actions. "Shut up! What do you know about me?" she yelled, unwilling to confront the reality of her actions. She responded defensively, "If you're feeling low, you should just tell us. We can't read minds." I attempted to calm her with reason. "Don't mock me. Why would I confide in you, you useless daughter-in-law?" she retorted angrily. "Mom, Julie has a point," Eric chimed in, trying to mediate as the tension escalated. The police, observing the situation deteriorate, intervened and suggested relocating to the station. "Are you actually going to arrest me? I can't believe this," she protested vehemently. Despite her objections, based on multiple eyewitness reports of her unauthorized entry and suspicion of theft due to her possession of my belongings, the police decided to detain her. My mother-in-law was arrested on charges of unlawful entry and theft, continuing to assert her innocence, demanding legal representation, and refusing the meals provided. During a visit, her father expressed his disappointment and encouraged her to sincerely contemplate her actions. His stern reprimand prompted her to tearfully apologize, showing a rare submission to his authority, the only one she seemed unwilling to defy. He cautioned her that without genuine introspection, she should not expect a welcoming return home. Reluctantly, she seemed to acknowledge the gravity of her situation. Perhaps the loss of her husband had left my mother-in-law adrift, her flashy attire and jewelry serving as armor against her insecurities. I pondered if her disparate treatment towards me and my sister-in-law was merely a facade masking her vulnerabilities. Nonetheless, her unchecked desires and poor impulse control remained distinct issues. It was evident that her flawed judgments had led to this unfortunate situation. I was stunned by how quickly things had escalated, especially after discovering that my mother-in-law had been using a spare key to enter our home surreptitiously. The thought of someone intruding into our personal space uninvited was deeply unsettling. Fortunately, our vigilant neighbors across the street, particularly the wife who worked from home, had noticed her suspicious behavior and reported it. I am immensely thankful for their brave intervention, which has since allowed us to live more peacefully, ensuring our safety. We updated our home security by changing all the locks and stopped placing a spare key outside. Eric decided it was best to sever ties with his mother, insisting that she refrain from contacting us in the future. He even warned that legal measures would be taken if she attempted to reach out after her release. Following her release, she returned to her childhood home in the countryside and surprisingly adopted a simpler way of life, a stark contrast to her previously extravagant lifestyle. Under the watchful eye of her father, she began to contribute to household chores from dawn. I genuinely hope this change gives her a chance to contemplate her previous actions. In the meantime, my father moved in with us, primarily to safeguard against any unexpected visits from my mother-in-law. His presence is not only a security measure, but also a comfort to us during an exciting time. I am expecting our first child. The prospect of becoming grandparents has brought a new level of joy and support from Eric, enhancing the warmth and resolve in our household. While material things may offer momentary pleasure, it's truly the company of loved ones that enriches our lives. As we settle into our current living situation, surrounded by family, we are dedicated to maintaining the tranquility and joy in our daily lives, cherishing the serene and supportive environment we've cultivated.